Out in the North Pacific Ocean, there is this humongous garbage patch that's been trapping debris from both hemispheres. And this trash, much of it being plastic, it's just a terrible eyesore, and it's even threatening sea life.
Yeah, and it might be the size of Texas.
Which is crazy. I mean, that's huge.
In Honolulu, researchers are tracking the so-called Great Pacific Plastic Patch. VOA's Michael Sullivan was in Hawaii for the Inside Scoop. Here's what he told me about what he learned.
We've been hearing about this trash patch for 15 or 20 years, and what most people imagine is like islands of trash, and there is trash to be seen out there. Sometimes it accumulates because we have this circular, what they call a gyre, which is a circular current, and it tends to get trapped in the center.
As you get closer and closer to the center of that, the central axis of that feature, the waters become more quiescent. So they tend to trap floating debris.
The Pacific Trash Patch is famously as big as the U.S. state of Texas, but Carl says what is seen from passing ships is mostly empty ocean. He says the churning of the ocean quickly reduces much of the plastic to a chemical sludge. The biggest danger comes from the trash that you cannot see. It gets beaten down into microscopic particles, or very small particles that are consumed by things like plankton. Then the jellyfish eat the plankton, and the larger predators eat the jellyfish, and it is affecting the entire food chain. And some of it, again, comes back to humans as we catch some of those fish.
Experts also say that this is a part of the natural cycle and it will eventually kind of take care of itself. How much truth is there to this?
Well, you know, the plastic is going to stay there in one form or other for hundreds of years. This is the problem. Whether we see it or not, it'll eventually, you know, in geological time, it's a few hundred years is nothing, but in human time, that's a long a long duration to have it as a contaminant. The problem is we're not reducing the use of plastic, and more of this is going into the waterways and into the ocean and ending up in this North Pacific gyre. Most trash in the ocean is mostly invisible, since some is in fluid form and some sinks to the bottom and cannot be seen.
So when we're talking about this contemporary Great Pacific Plastic Patch, as it has been called, we're only skimming the surface, literally.
Some cities, you know, LA is reducing the use of plastic bags, and you're seeing that in other parts of the world as well. But unless we do something more dramatic, we're going to have more plastic in the ocean, and it'll be more of an environmental problem.
So what is it that they're planning to do to avoid this?
Well, again, cities like Los Angeles have banned the use of plastic bags. Around California, we're seeing, and in Hawaii, we're seeing a lot of cities that are saying if you want to use a plastic bag, you have to pay for it. So the effect is to reduce the use of plastic bags and to get people to bring in their own reusable bags. But the bigger problem, as well, is plastic packaging and throwaway, one-time use plastic. And we really have to do something about that, and nobody is doing much right now.
When they know that the plastic is causing such a lot of damage, why don't they just ban plastics?
You know, it was touted in the 1950s when we suddenly had this plastic revolution as a miracle substance, and it's cheap. You can manufacture things with it. You can make cameras out of it. We can make automobile bumpers out of it, and we can make packaging. But we have never really, as a society, tackled the environmental impacts of plastic. And that's what, we're starting to do on a small scale, but we have to do it on a much larger scale, according to these scientists.
Okay, the reason why I ask you this, because, I mean, in the 1930s, things were being packaged with hemp products, which are recyclable and biodegradable. I don't know why people don't think about going back to that.
You know, I think we may eventually do this. When I go to the supermarket here, and I've seen this in Hawaii, you see a lot of people bringing in cloth bags, reusable cloth bags, and we may, it's an older style of shopping. It's something that works well, and we may eventually all be going back to that.
Thanks to Michael Sullivan for this, and Alex, we should mention here that DC also had a 5-cent plastic bag tax that was imposed on shoppers a couple of years back.
Right, and this was something that locals here were not so keen on having to spend a little bit more money for their stuff, but it's been a good thing because the move has already greatly reduced the bags that end up in our waters here. So, good move.